Hi, everybody, and welcome to another one of my live streams where I interview talented IT professionals who got endorsed for the UK Global Talent Visa. My name is Nadia. I'm a UK Global Talent Visa recipient and coach, which means that I got endorsed for this visa as a software engineer last year. And since then, I've been helping IT professionals working in different specialties, coders, programmers, product managers, designers, startup founders, and everything in between to get endorsed for the visa as well. So on this channel, I share information regarding the process of immigrating to the UK for talented IT professionals. So if this is something that you're interested in, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel to show support and to keep videos like this coming. With that out of the way, I'm excited to introduce our guest for today. Today, I'm excited to be talking to Mukesh. One second. Welcome, Mukesh.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So from what I know, you got endorsed for the Global Talent Visa back in 2016 as a software engineer, so the same route that I took. I'm very curious to learn more about your background. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you do for a living, what is your professional background like, and what motivated you to apply for this visa and to move to the UK overall.
Okay, so basically, I'm from India, and before I came here, I was working with the organization called Indian Railways. So I put in like 21 years of service. I started my journey from transit clerk, booking clerk, and then I worked my way up being a software developer, developed a few bespoke projects for Indian Railways and all. And it was a long journey, like 10 to 15 years of journey before I applied for this visa. And
So, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
so uh, so people might not know that Indian Railways is the world's second largest employer after NHS. Uh, uh, Probably around
I actually
one.
heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I once
yeah,
heard that being said about the NHS, and that surprised me that NHS is actually the world's largest employer, and then it was compared to the Indian Railway, which is quite interesting.
yeah. Probably like 1.7 million employees, and they've got their own. Application Development Center, Indian Railways, which is in capital Delhi, uh, capital of India, Delhi. So they've got their own development centers, and I think probably there are like 10,000 people somewhere around working there in various
Wow.
capacities. Yeah. Uh, so basically, whatever they do it in house. They don't.
Mm.
Yeah, so they're very huge organization, and very vast hierarchy of people, a lot of managers, and I was basically a class 3 employee. So above me, like class 2, and then class 1, and then there are people who sits in capital. Those are the main people, like they sits in the railway board, chairman and all. So it was a very huge organization. And well, when I joined, my initial duty did not involve anything to do with computers. uh, right.
Mm.
So, and when I joined, I did not know the English language as well. So I was coming from a rural area of a state called Gujarat. So, and I wasn't well versed with the language when I came there. So I had to learn it from scratch, all by my own. And then I also learned it. I also learned the not only the language, but the computer, all by myself. uh, Now, so there are a lot of things that I've noticed that can be, improved and over the period of time. But uh, I did not have that kind of knowledge, of computers programming and all. So I had to learn it first, all by myself. And then once I started with the ancient programming languages, like Fortran, and then I started with Fox Pro, Visual Fox Pro, then and then uh, uh, once I learned them, I start, and then VB6, of course. I worked in VB6, Visual Basic 6, for quite a long time in railways. So I started doing little projects on my own, and then I got a lot of encouragement. I got very good mentors, very good peers, people who helped me a lot. Uh, I mean, they actually encouraged me. They provided me with computer, time time allocation, so that I can really do my things. And basically, I'm a result of those people's beliefs that I could do something. And that's
Mm,
why, yeah, so they are the people who are actually made it happen. They made me today sitting here giving this
yeah.
interview.
Wow, that's really incredible. Such a powerful story. Kind of starting from a rural area, not knowing English or coding, and now getting endorsed for the UK Global Talent Visa and living in the UK. I think that's pretty incredible. So you said that you started from a position that didn't involve any coding, and then you worked your way up to being, I think it says in your LinkedIn, lead software developer. So how many
Yes.
people were you managing?
There was a small team of like 45, 50 people.
A
Uh,
small team, 50 people. Okay. Yeah. So what was? I'm just curious about. So I don't know anything about railways and like what's involved in being a software engineer in the railway, because like obviously I understand what it's like to be a software engineer in a like typical product company, right? So
yeah.
what is it like to work in an organization like this, a huge organization like this?
So it's a very huge organization with like 8 or 9 different regions. So western part, northern part, and all, like that. Southern railway is a different entity, and something like, but they all consist, the Indian railway consists of all these kind of different entities. They all work together. So as I mentioned earlier, they have got this their own development center. But that development center back in Delhi, which is called Center for Indian Railway Information System, CRIS. So that's a, that was very generic one. I mean, they would actually made for example, they would made the applications for reservations. You buy tickets and all that kind of ticketing system. And then the other part, that covers the passenger traffic mainly, and the other part is goods transportation, where this is common. I mean, when we talk about the railway, it doesn't matter we are talking about the UK, US, or any part in the world. There are only two main branches we are talking about. One is the goods transportation, and one is passenger transportation. So I was working in a branch, in a region called Western Railway, and in which I was working in a branch which called Freight Operations Information System, FOIS. And those were the people who were responsible for providing allotment of wagons, looking after all kind of commodities bookings, and moving and all. So they required a very huge amount of they have to process very huge amount of data. I mean, to put things in perspective, I think the daily revenue generation of Western Railway alone is more than like 20 million pounds, or maybe more. I'm not sure about the figure at the moment, but it's such a huge data. For that kind of revenue, lot of wagons and metric tons wagons are moving and all. So and in the somewhere around like 4 a.m. in the morning, uh, our officers required a report a bunch of report, which
Mm,
consists of like 100 of reports, at least
mm-hmm.
100 of report, different kind of pages, like 200 pages. So they have to see which rake or which train is standing where, which are the vehicles that can allocate, which kind of commodity they have to prioritize in terms, because they have to optimize the whole population so that we can make sure that nothing is going waste while waiting. Like if suppose vegans are waiting, right, and we are not earning anything, so it's a loss. So we have to face those vegans from point A to point B where they are required, and then load the goods, and then kick it away. So that was the
Mm,
basically so they required a very robust information system, and I
yeah.
worked on so I worked on that automation reporting module. So we would fetch data from our main server, which is based in Delhi. So they have got like 50-60 reports generated at 4 a.m. in the morning, somewhere even 3 a.m. in the morning. So we would fetch those data, and then we have to churn that data out, make a cocktail, and make a very complex reports like snapshot type, and that report then will be used to determine the whole day's activities all at once.
Mm, I see. So there is definitely working with like the scale is quite huge in this kind of job, right?
Yeah.
So you've built, from what I hear, you've built quite a successful career back in India. So what inspired you to try to move to the UK? What was the reason for the move? And I guess how did you learn about the visa? Did you come here on the global talent visa immediately, or did you go through some other visa
No,
route?
I came here briefly on student visa during 2006 to 2008. Then I went back after study, and I was in the know of the kind of visa categories. Back then, it was like in 2006, it was a highly skilled migration program, which obviously I wasn't able to qualify. I wasn't equipped to have that kind of knowledge to qualify. And when I left, there was a tier one general, something like that. The similar category, like
Mm,
we have this global talent, but it was it so when I went back, because I had to go back to fulfill my bond, which because my organization Indian Railways sent me uh, in for study. They
mm,
pay, yeah, so they paid salary and all, so I had a bond, I had commitment, so I had to go back to fulfill that. So after to but when I was here, I just fell in love with this country. And I mean, everything was like it was something that even today I will not be able to fully describe what actually intrigued me, what actually made me to make this country my nation, right? But I mean, but I can name a few like beautiful landscapes and unbiased and ethical work culture, right? When
mm.
when you are only judged by the way you work, the merit of your work, and other things. I mean, and the great British sense of humor. So it's quite an
Yeah, I
so
like it as well.
yeah, so um, I always wanted to come back, but then uh, they actually closed down tier one general and other category. It was so difficult back then. They made so many changes with even skilled work visa and all.
Mm,
So it was so difficult for me to think that I can get that kind of visa. I wasn't just qualified enough. I was working in government job, and it wasn't a very high paying salary that I was getting, to meet those criteria and so all. So, and in the meanwhile, I got a couple of opportunities around the globe from like the United States of America, Australia, even one from Singapore. But I decided if I am going to call any country my home, it has to be either India or the United Kingdom. Rest of the world is just
mm,
a tourist destination for me. So
mm,
so from 2011, I was looking time and time. I was just looking. So I think they introduced this visa in 2011. Back then it was called exceptional talent visa, and the main objective, the main goal of this visa to make the United Kingdom and Silicon Valley. So yeah, so the aim was so high, and that was quite fascinating, the way it was started. uh, but somehow the criteria that time when I looked at, like in 2012, I looked at the criteria, and then I decided after 5 to 10 minutes that I did not fit. I can't get this visa. And so I just be I mean, then again, time to time I was looking at the requirements of the visa. So I had to wait like till end of 2015. um, uh, because in 2015, I actually developed a system back there in Western Railway, which is called Western Railway Data Management System, which saved a lot of money and manpower for the railway. So they decided to give me national award for software development. Um,
Mm.
yeah, outstanding services. So then I got a national award for that particular software, and then I visited uh, the whole criteria thing again. And then I found out that now what they are saying is that either you at that time the criteria was saying that, so basically there were two categories, but they were saying that for a talent, you need to prove that you are a world global leader,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm.
for promise, you have to prove that you have a potential to become global leader. So in which they actually there was something which encouraged me. It says that either you have a national or international level award. So that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so then I thought, okay, this is the main hurdle. So I got a national award. Now I can try. And so that was the first time it came to my mind that, okay, I can give it a actual real shot.
Mm-hmm. So you got the award, and then you understood that maybe this is something that you can actually qualify for. A lot of things that you mentioned sound very interesting. So you mentioned that there was a period when it was really hard to get into the UK, and the visas were very stringent. And I talked about this on my channel as well, because I think people have this idea that because of Brexit, it's very difficult to move to the UK. But actually, in the last few years, it has become much easier to come here, and
Yes.
immigration is just open. So it's a good time to move if you're always kind of willing to come here, but you always thought that, this is not for me because the visa is too hard. Like for me, like growing up in Belarus, like I didn't even know anybody who would be going to the UK because the visa was so difficult to get. So in
Yeah.
my mind, it was like this idea that this is kind of a hard place to get into. And I know that a lot of people still have this idea. So I would just, wanted to clarify that it's much easier than it used to be. And I think your stories is also interesting in that respect. So you learned about the visa, you got the award, right? So what did you do next, and like what was the process of getting the visa in 2016?
Okay, so I'm also telling about myself what I did back then, but it is more or less goes to the new applicant as well. So what I did is, so I went through the whole criteria, the optional and mandatory and all, and then I actually put in like 2 or 3 days time to understand, and then think in my head what would be the best way to approach this. uh, and then I stopped looking at those criterias and all. Once the basic abstract picture was there in my mind, I stopped looking at it. And the first order of business for me was to approach uh, the people I have in mind for my LOR, letter of recommendations, my peers. So I went to them, and those were very busy people. I mean, managing a team of so the my manager, which is called chief operations manager, that person was managing a team of like 100,000 people on daily basis. So he was so busy. So I had to go to him uh, and asked him whether he's going to endorse me for this one. He said, "Of course, I would endorse you. You worked so hard, and yes, you deserve it." So I told him that. So he actually gone through the whole criteria and what are the questions that he need to answer. And basically, I approached all five people that I had in mind. So I prepared five people for that one. Only two were required. So I gave them this questionnaire right? They have to answer these questions. And one of them was my business partner. So in 2016, I formed a business partnership here. So I registered a company here. So one of them was my business partner, and he actually literally actually made his endorsement letter just by putting one question and then answering it. It was quite
Mm.
yeah, it was quite
What was the question?
those are questions that why do you think that this person, the similar thing like this
Yeah.
person would be beneficial to UK, what's in it for him if he gets endorsed, and why do you think he has got what kind of abilities and all those kind of things, blah blah blah, the similar questions. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
change, I guess. uh, so he answered it in that format only. So, and there are other three, those were my peers working in Indian Railways and all. One of my friends, he also was happy to help me out, but that's it. I went to them, and then I then I moved on. I mean, I would keep sending some messages, just checking up on updates, whether they have done it or not, or if they require any information from me or not. But that part was there. And some of them asked me for pointers, so I sent them one page pointers, that what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what should be put. But that's all. And that is very important. You shouldn't be trying to uh, shouldn't be trying to make those letters on your own, then go to your peers to just sign them. Don't do that. Give them pointers, line by line, probably a one page, two page. Let them churn it out and come up with their own language, or because that way they will not get pressurized that they have to say something in precise meters, something like this and that. No. So you just give them some pointers and then leave it to them. They will come through eventually. It would take some time. In my case, it took the whole 5 letters. It took like 3 months, back and forth. But
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, uh, then I concentrated on meeting. So I would pick one criteria at a time. So for this week, I would pick one criteria, right, and I would work on that one, uh, gathering evidence as much as I can. And on initial process, I would always advise people not to be choosy about anything. Like, no, no,
What
I'm
do you
not
mean?
going to take. Okay, so you have like basically five or six things, five kind of evidence that you have. Don't discard it on prima facie at very early stage, right? You just make a bunch. You collect all of them as much as you can do possibly, and then at the end of the process, you will have time to analyze, go through each, and that time you will have LORs as well from your peers. So you would know what they said, and then you write your cover letter. Now your cover letter should reflect what they said, and your evidence also should reflect what they said. So everything has to, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You have to fit everything in one mold altogether. It should because this visa is not about criteria to criteria, right? It is the whole the visa, I think endorsement is being done on totality basis. So yeah, they actually will look at the total picture, not a particular endorsement, sorry, particular criteria. So so you will have to start seeing that kind of bigger picture in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. I
that
think
is
it's
very
important to
important.
have, yeah, like a holistic approach and having a story and making sure that all the documents fit together and they tell consistent story. So, can we talk about the criteria? Like, what were they like in 2016? And which ones did you choose, if you still remember? And what kind of documents did you use to fulfill those? I know that the criteria changed, but maybe there is still some insights
Yeah, no, no,
and, yeah.
the basic premise remains the same. So not much has changed. Um, so I just excluded one criteria, which was like research and all. I had nothing to do with any kind of research and things. So I just left it out, and then the other three I chose to deal with. Of course, then in mandatory criteria, you have one mandatory criteria that you have to provide. There is no escape. But here you can provide two from four in my time. So I provided three out of four. Uh, so one was like in your day-to-day activity, you have gone outside the purview of your job responsibility and done something in the field of digital technology, something extraordinary or something different. So that was one criteria. Another criteria that you involved in some kind of innovative product development or innovative concept development. You have to prove that you are part of a team or something like that. That was this the second criteria. So I address those criterias. So obviously, innovation and all. I put my national award and and the project I was working on, the report automation module. Few like you have to be like you, if you are coming from a software background, you have a lot of. I tell you, you would end up having a lot of evidence at your table. So it would be very difficult for you to pick and choose later on. But uh, your whole limit is of like 10 documents only, so you have to stick to that one. So I provided some diagrams and some like 1 page or 2 page of like coding and all for to meet that criteria, just to prove that the design and concept. So thankfully it was accepted. But something like
Mm-hmm.
that all and I think they have given a pointers like you have to put this and this over here. And then I also, for the other criteria, like what you did for your day-to-day activities outside your profession and all. So I actually trained people back there in Western Railway to take over the software which I did, because I was taking voluntary retirement. So I had to pass pass it on to some other team. So I trained them. I also trained them in .NET technologies and all. So I had like photographs, and then I got like notings, file notings, which says that I was designated to train them. Then I start commence training them, and then I finished training their training, and then I came back or something like that. Kind of documentation was there. So which was uh, which was proof enough that I actually met that criteria. So I was confident about that criteria. I was confident about the design and all that, which I what I did, because obviously I had national award for that. So I just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I just knew that this endorsement people would count national award or something. So yeah, and then I established a company, and that was also a plus. But uh, uh, but not everybody is applying for, with this founders visa and all, so they might not have that one. And nowadays I think they've changed that criteria, like you have to give 5 years. If it is not recently opened, you have to give like 5 years back history of that company, financials and everything and all. So that kind of things they have added. I think it wasn't there back then. um, you have to, yeah, so you have to just prove that you have founded a company and you're working on something innovative. That's all it was
Mm-hmm.
required. uh, Now, nowadays I see, okay, so these are the criteria. Okay, at some point, at some point for in everybody's journey, it becomes overwhelming. Like you don't know where to go. Sometimes it becomes, because you have to prepare like you will actually prepare like 40 50 documents, and then you have to choose in 10, sometimes 10 documents. It's very confusing. People get confused sometimes. They lose confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
Don't Yeah, so just don't I mean, okay, if you sometimes some um you don't revisit those criterias and anything. Like you just take one thing at a time. So suppose if you are working on LOR at the moment, don't think about criteria anymore. Just focus on that one. That will prevent you from getting overwhelmed by the process. Of course, process is very difficult, but then you should um, prepare yourself to such a way that you don't get affected by that. And so mental preparation is very, very required for this visa, to be to
I
prepare
agree.
yourself.
Yeah. So how long did it take you, the whole process of preparing the documents from start to
uh,
finish?
uh, So I think that the delaying factor in my case was just LORs, because people didn't get otherwise my documentation was ready, my award was ready, and the software I developed was ready, all the diagrams and all those things, which I decided to put in that, those things were ready. I was just waiting for the LOR, so it would take like 4 months. Yeah, approximately 4 months to get LORs and all everything. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
then I started writing my CV. So it should be the last.
Yeah,
It
and
should
the
be
personal statement probably, right?
right, because then you will get the whole picture. Now you will get to know what your LOR are saying. What your peers have said about you, what kind of documents that you are submitting, and yeah, so you know the whole picture, then you build your story. And those kind of templates and all, people are selling it. I don't know whether you are selling it or not, or anybody is
No,
selling it.
not
Yeah.
selling.
So but those templates are useless, like uh, your story is different than mine, right? So you cannot fit every story in one mold. So if somebody copies my statement, right, cover letter, my cover letter, and then like copies it, it won't work. So those templates are useless, so don't go for those templates. That's the first number one. And make your cover letter like seems like a story, because you have got like 7,000 words to tell you a very good story which can impress people. And by that time you know what you have to say in that. So articulate your words. uh, um, don't don't put so many unnecessary sentences, but puts very short and sweet, but very effective sentences. Use some proverb, if you have to make your point across. That's what it is. And it's basically a storytelling. If people go to my LinkedIn page and um, search my cover letter which I published over there, you would find that it has nothing to match with whatever the guidelines that Tech Nation has provided, or the other people are advocating like this kind of template and all. No, you just tell your story and then hope that they would get impressed by that, right? So
Yeah.
and yeah, of course, if you have very good people helping you, just like some professional, they could actually change some kind of language and make it more effective and all those kind of things. But nobody can use your story on behalf of you.
Hmm.
That's the point.
I agree. Yeah. So to your point for templates, I do agree that kind of copy pasting templates is not only useless, it's also dangerous. You'll get rejected for that. But also, I do on my website, I link to a resource which is like a guide for software engineers who are preparing for the visa. You can use those resources like this that are trusted for inspiration only, right? So sometimes people struggle with imagining like what a document could look like, and I think resources like this are very helpful to just help you visualize those things. Because I know myself, when I was preparing for the visa, I
Yeah.
really struggled understanding like, okay, so what is a document and what should be there? So resources like this can help you get inspired, but also like no matter what you buy somewhere or you see for free, never copy paste stuff and put in your own letters. And like the most recent update to the technician guide is that you should not use ChatGPT to write the documents, which I think is kind of obvious, but apparently not
I mean,
adapted.
it's pity that they have to put it out like that.
Yeah. So
that
probably
that
people kind of went crazy with that and did that. So I do encourage people to write their documents, as a human whenever possible. But yeah, I think all good advice. I also recommend my clients to write the CV and the personal statement cover letter last, when, as exactly like I said, when you already have the whole story, all the documents are ready, and you just tie those things together. So I think that's all great. So what was it like? I'm just curious. What was it like to apply for the visa back in 2016? From what I've heard, back then there were few resources about the visa, so it was hard to get information, and also you had to apply by
Yeah,
paper, like by post, right? Was it true?
yeah. So uh, so I was actually searching for people who can help me, right? Because as I said, that I'm talking from my experience, so I know that at some point in time, when you were in the process, you will get overwhelmed, and then you feel that I have nowhere to go. So that time, you require somebody to actually guide you a little bit. Uh, so i uh, s- so I just tried to search how many people were endorsed before, and the number was 37 for the total world, the whole world. They
Wow,
endorsed
37
37.
people.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
god.
that's like a 2000, beginning of the 2000, end of 2015 and beginning of 2016. Back there, before that, in like 2015, they were criticized, the home office was criticized that this visa was a big fiasco and everything. So somehow
Why?
27 more, yeah, because nobody was applying, it was so tough.
uh,
Because okay, so I would actually, when I would actually say it later, but at that time, as I told you, that the criteria, that the main thing that was mentioned like two or three times in the booklet, was that you have to have a potential of being a world leader, or you are an established world leader. Now in software, right, it is very uh, difficult. I mean, world kind of degrees and all, what kind of
yeah.
it was like, how can you prove that you are world leader? Now the only problem is the world leader. I mean, if I have to call somebody a world leader, right, I would call probably the Facebook founder Mark, and right, Google, Larry Page, and probably,
Yeah.
those are the people like Satya Nadella and all those. They prove themselves to be a world leader in digital technology, right? Steve Jobs and all, but they people are not interested in this visa, are they?
Yes.
So how can you prove? I mean, if you are, so it always confused me. If you are a world leader, why would you be interested in this visa, right?
Hmm.
So
So
it was
nobody
that.
was applying because it was
Yeah,
so difficult
yeah.
to
so
get.
so the so my point is, the people who were qualified for this visa, right, were not interested in the visa, and people who are trying to get this visa were not qualified for that visa, you know.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it was an ironical situation. But so yeah, so 27 people. So before that, in 4 years, from 2000, if I'm not wrong, from 2000 to 2014, they had just endorsed 10 people. In 3 years, three
Mm.
years they endorsed 10 people, and then
Wow.
27. So when I started to look out for those people, I found no one from India.
Mm.
And you can't find, because there wasn't anything on social media platform, so that you can, um, so I visited Quora, and I find, whom I find, Divyansh, Divyansh got this visa like 3 months before me. So he published his story, and that was my cue actually. So I read his story, like what he did and all. But then he was a very fantastic, a very brilliant fellow, and I could not, match his whatever he did, because he just came recently. He was just a recent graduate for, he just finished his computer science degree, and he came and he started some startup and generated some revenue, and all in a very quick time span. And I spent like 20 years with this thing, and I didn't have any clue what I,
Mm.
you know, how
Wow.
to how to run a company or what. So it was like a very dark, and then I thought, okay, maybe, Okay, I have to think everything about this thing on my own.
Mm.
But so
Mm-hmm.
what? So what? You keep thinking, you keep digging. Uh, you will find a way out. You will find your own way, and that's what basically happened. So I did it all on my own, and when I got this visa, then I made sure that people. Nowadays it is like you have got like abundant of resources out there in social media and all, so you won't find left alone. But then when I came here, then I made sure that I would help out on so people were coming I was also an ambassador of this visa, technician ambassador. So I would reach out to people whom I find that they've got potential. uh, uh, once they message me and tell them that they are keen on applying this visa and all, so I would help them out. So
Mm-hmm.
basically I have like 20-25 people I helped to get obtain this visa. And for one person I also uh, I was ambassador, so I also told some. uh, I got angry when one person was rejected, and then I put when yeah, and then I actually put a very angry message on ambassador group that I mean, what kind of process that decided this person shouldn't be getting visa. Thankfully, on his second attempt, he got the visa, so it was okay. But it
Mm.
happens, it happens. I mean, uh, it's just a matter of perspective. Sometimes I mean, the judges are not the ultimate authority on anything, but they are ultimate authority on that particular time for that particular
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So yeah, so people who are judging the endorsement process, it happens. I mean, you can't blame
Yeah.
anybody for that. You would try to learn from your mistakes. You get rejection, so they would actually go in details and tell you what kind of process that you did not follow, or what kind of improvement that you require in future. So you just do that. You just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
do that, apply again, right? So
Yeah.
but it was very difficult for that time. I mean, I think that the 2016 was very difficult
Mm-hmm.
for people.
I've heard of some people who
Yeah.
were getting endorsed back then, and it was just a whole different world. So this is something that I was curious to ask you about. So you've touched upon that a little bit about the differences between the process then and now. So maybe anything else that you would like to add as to how those things changed, both the process and also the objective of the visa between 2016 and 2023.
Okay, so yeah, the biggest which I think which changed in 2017, they actually removed. Yeah, because maybe spooked by the Brexit and all. I don't know the reasons, but they diluted the criteria, right? From
In what
if
way?
you The biggest difference was they removed the world leader phrase
Mm-hmm.
from the requirement. So they removed that word, and nowadays it reads that you have to become a potential of being a leader, or you are already an established leader. Now there is a vast difference between a leader and world leader, right?
Yeah.
So when I say it was diluted, I'm making sense, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
the biggest difference between these two criteria, to current visa and that visa then, right? So that was, and then I guess yeah, in some they made some little bit cosmetic changes in optional criteria and other things like um, now in nowadays I think for a potential, you don't you have to prove that you are just uh, you haven't established I mean, you haven't done anything innovative yet, but you are working on something or something like that, those kind of changes. But I don't think, apart from that, some cosmetic change, nothing changed on that part. For me, it was the biggest. Oh yes, previously they didn't have any like like any restrictions on which kind of faculty you are working, which kind of branch you are working in digital technology, right? I'm talking about the technical. So now they included like you have to be working for product development companies only,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which wasn't there before. So a lot of guys from service-based companies like TCS, Accenture, Infosys, they were able to apply, which they stopped. Um, Now I think they also and then now they want you to uh, get three new letter of recommendations from different people and different organizations. And now I think they've added some more stringent criteria with that they cannot be those people cannot be your relative or friend. They have to be
Yeah.
associated. They have to be associated with you in professional capacity, which I which in my personal opinion I may be wrong, but which I think it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so now they require you to have some sort of
Yeah,
distance between
it
the
doesn't
person
make
and
any
the
sense,
recommender.
right?
Why?
Okay, so if you are talented enough to get an endorsement from Bill Gates, right? Then okay,
Yeah.
you are not, you have never worked with Microsoft, but somehow you just magically know Bill Gates and he is willing to tell that okay, Nadia is extra, Nadia is an exceptional genius and all. She has done all, and I have seen. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, but also, what
Uh,
if Bill Gates is your friend? Then you can't get a letter from him either.
no,
It's
no.
another
The
point.
thing is, it doesn't matter whether
Yeah.
they are your friend or not. What matters is what their own achievements are. If they are capable and qualified enough to vouch for you, then it should be okay. If their CV is credible, their credentials are bang on target, it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter.
Well,
So I
unfortunately,
have
it
this.
does, and people get rejected if if they submit letters from people who now like you have to show that this person knows your work in detail for at least 12 months, which is like very stringent again, and it can't be your friend, it can't be your direct manager or a
Yeah,
colleague. So yeah, it's more difficult in this
that
respect.
is also, that 12-month thing is also a detrimental to this process. Why? Because I tell you, there are a lot of companies. Now I don't know people who have decided this to put this clause in this the requirement, what they were thinking, but they probably don't know there are some companies out there, right, who actually discourage I'm talking about the companies, main service based companies who have got like branches over here. So they would get people from India to work for, and other countries to work here, right? And they basically would come on intra company transfer visa, which is non settlement category. So they can keep them as long as they want, up to 9 years of time. They won't have, so, and basically they will have to go back after 9 years. So it's a win-win situation for them, and they can actually, sometimes some companies, not all companies, some companies take advantage of this situation. And I've seen a lot of talented people are suffering. And when they, I personally know like three or four people who actually working in these service-based companies, which I don't like at all. I would never go and work for them, right? Yeah, even if that means that I have to completely leave this field, digital technology field. I would never work for service based companies, because I've seen people, I mean, not all service based companies, again I'm saying, I'm not generalizing, but I've seen like four or five people when they reach to their HR for this kind of, or their peers for this kind of recommendation, they not only refused, afterwards they made sure that the day to day they're working would become miserable. Would you believe that?
Wow, and like
So
how do
how
they do
can,
it?
exactly, so those talented people, now you have actually forced them to get letters from those people the moment they know that he is trying to, because this is escape route, right? Once you get into tier 1 exceptional talent visa or global talent visa, right, you are not bound by any employer. So they actually lose whatever the leverage they have on you. So the first thing
So
that people,
they try to punish you for trying to get this visa, basically, right?
yeah, yeah, of course. So okay, some mean people, they would actually try to set an example out of you, so that other people would not come. Because of course, let's face it, this is not something that they want. It is not good for their business practices. It is detrimental to their goals, right? Because what they want is, they want to pay you, whether they are paying you generously or whatever they are paying non generously, that's a different story. But whatever they are paying you, they want you to keep happy, keep satisfied with that, and keep working, right? And this visa, obviously, it's very
Yeah.
detrimental to their plan. So, and I'm not again saying that not all people are doing this, but I've seen some companies are doing this. Now those individual people, those talented people, have no way to get this visa, because those people will never get them, never give them a letter of recommendations.
So
First, yeah.
I'm like, I've never worked in companies that toxic. So I'm just curious, when you say that, like, for instance, if you work in a service-based company which is very toxic, like you described, and you ask them for a letter of recommendation to apply for the visa, and you say that they will make an example out of you, like, what do you mean? Like, what would happen to people like this? And also, you said that you would never work in companies like this. So I'm also curious, like, what can happen there? I think it's useful for people to learn, like, what exists
There's
in the world.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying that all service based companies are like that, right? As far as I know, TCS is very good company. They treat their employees very well. I know about TCS, so I can tell they are very good people. Uh, but there are some other company now. Setting an example means, like, so if I'm applying, right, and my colleague and I, my colleague is thinking, but he was on the fence, and he's saying, okay, you just do it first. And if then I get I if I'm refused, right, that okay, no, there is no LOR for you, and then nothing, then my colleague is watching. He's watching that, okay. And then he is also watching that, if I get little bit, little bit like salty treatment. So he's watching. He say, oh, this is what happens when you try to do this. That's what I say,
I
making
got
an
it. Yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you, by any chance, have an idea of why this rule was changed to exclude people who work in consultancies, outsource companies, and service-based
Uh,
companies?
yeah, that was, I think that was actually, uh, in one of the ambassador meeting, actually I raised that point. I don't know whether they actually uh, pay any heed to that one, but I was okay. So I was just thinking that, service, innovation, innovation, when you talk about innovation, so you started this visa, right, with a very definitive goal in your mind, that you want it to become next Silicon Valley, right? And I personally believe that Silicon Valley has been at the wrong address for far too long. It has to change. So that this is a very noble kind of thought behind this visa, right? So when you talk about the innovation, it is very difficult uh, when you are doing it on the service based work. Your work is pretty much limited, right? It is, so I don't know. Oh, of course, then there are some people, there are some people, some extraordinary people who would find some kind of innovation in whatever they are doing, but those are the exceptional cases. So I think the may I think the may you know the product based companies, right? So they are developing a product, so they will have to think outside the box. They will, because they have to compete out there in the market. So they would, I mean, they are more likely to have a innovation element of innovation attached to it. I don't know whether they think the same way, and that's why they did it. Because what was happening is, the quantity of applicants were increasing a lot of like from 2000, now it's about 4000 or something. It's increasing, right? So they were seeing quantity increasing, but the drop in quality. So there were a lot of rejection, more than 60% rejections and all. So probably they thought that we need to put some kind of restriction. So I think
Yeah.
it was an apt kind of thing to do.
Yeah, I heard an idea like this as well, explanation like this, that for for innovative companies are typically companies that are building their own product, and yeah, but also a lot of people who work in consultancies and who are building innovative products, they struggle presenting their experience in the correct way to fit the requirements. So I think it made things more difficult, obviously, for a lot of people. So another thing that caught my attention is that you mentioned that you said 20 to 25 people get endorsed for the visa. So in your experience helping people and coaching them through this process, what would you say was like the top mistake that you would see most people make, if you can think of something, or any kind of learning or insight that you got from coaching people or observing people go through this process, anything that can be useful for people watching this who want to apply for the visa as well?
Well, I mentioned quite a few points earlier, right? So the people approach me mainly. The main question, and I'm generalizing this thing, like 25 people, like almost 22 people. When they approach you, their first question is, from where I should begin. What is the first starting point? So they don't have any. So that's the biggest problem, biggest hurdle they have. So once you tell them this, like, you have to see all these things in totality, and just do some baby step, one step at a time, focus on that particular thing, forget about the rest of thing. So then it helps them, it really helps them, and I think that if you give them that advice, it would help them.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. So, in terms of how your life changed since you got the global talent visa, I'm usually curious to ask people like, how can you summarize, the impact that the visa has had on your life, and also what is your outlook on the UK in the future as a tech hub, as a potential new address for Silicon Valley?
I think to address, okay, it has changed my life forever, because I was in love with this country. Now I'm a citizen of this country. So that has changed my life, right? In a big way. So that's first thing. Uh, my product, it took like 6 years to develop, and we also filed a patent in the UK, which is published, and in the US as well. Probably next year we would file a patent in EU as well, although it is very costly nowadays, thanks to Brexit. Whoever thought it was a good idea? So, uh, yeah, so it has changed my life. I mean, in a lot of good ways. Uh, my family is all here. I've got two grown up sons. They both are working in digital technology field only. Both are working in a software developer capacity and all. And I consider myself well placed at the moment. It helped. It also helped me to be a part of this wonderful community, like 1,000 members Slack channel that we have, people like you. Yeah, so there are a lot of good people, good, genuine, intelligent, like 1,000 times more intelligent than me, people. This visa put me in company of that kind of group, and this is something I could not have dreamed of, even in the best day of my life.
Yeah, I agree. The community is amazing, and the people that you meet through the network, just people you like, the people that I'm interviewing, for instance, like most likely I would never have met most of my guests, and it's an amazing opportunity to connect, to learn from all of you, and just the experience that everybody brings to the table is truly unique. So, are you optimistic in general about the UK moving forward in terms of the economy? Because obviously, right now it's not amazing. So, what is your outlook for the future in terms of business and starting a business in the UK? Whether it's still a good place, in your opinion, for a startup founder?
It will always remain very good place. There is no doubt about it. Uh, it Look, it always happens, when you do some mistakes, you have to pay for those mistakes. It's a very simple. So, whatever. Okay, so of course the COVID wasn't our mistake, but that it im- that but that was there, and we had to deal with that. So we are still trying to get out of that kind of aftershock effects of COVID, right? And of course the Brexit, well, I don't want to say anything about that one, but so yes, we did some mistakes, and now we are trying to get ahead of those mistakes, and I think things are improving, but it's not a magic word. It would take some time. I mean, right? So I'm very optimistic about the UK. I mean, if you read the Tech Nation report this time, right? We are
Mm,
still doing pretty good. We're still
mm,
doing, yeah, we are outperforming even some of the biggest markets in the Europe, right?
mm.
So we are doing good. However,
Yeah.
um, if you are asking me particularly about the Silicon Valley dream, I would say that we have lost it. We
Why?
No, we don't have. We can't be Silicon Valley anymore.
What, like you say
Based on
anymore?
my
There was there was a chance and now
unless
there isn't.
yes, unless we change a lot of things, unless we change a lot of things. Okay, we can actually reach next to it, but in order to replace Silicon Valley, you need some element of insanity. You need crazy people. You need crazy investor. You need crazy ideas,
Hmm.
like what crazy ideas the United States of America had, right? And if you look at if you look at the biggest names, right, in digital technology, right, Microsoft, Facebook and all. Now, have you if you go through, not about Microsoft, but if you go through the story of Facebook and Google and all, you would realize that their concept were like you can actually fit the basic concept in a one page. It was so simple, one page concept, correct? And it came out of universities. Facebook came out of university, right? Harvard. Mark came from that, and Larry Page, Stanford, I guess, right? So I think that we need to change. First thing that we need to change, I will give you an example of that. We need to change. We need to actually change the promise route, the criteria of promise route totally. Totally, it has nothing to do with exceptional talent route. You people who are already established, okay, but they are not going to make you Silicon Valley of the world. You need graduates, you need people out of university, you need to have your own Stanford, you need to have your own Harvard
Mm.
University, right? You have got like very fantastic universities and institutions like Cambridge and all, right? You have got, you have to have, but you have, so you have to pick those people. You have to learn to read that one line simple concept which can fit into a single page. You have to learn to expand your understanding for it to be like 1,000 pages long, to become a Facebook, to become Google, right? Because Google, I think the initial small application that was created initially was Backrub, a very small one. It was based on page rank algorithm or something, right? And it was the guys were working from the garage, and before that they were working from the room. Now if you have that kind of one page concept, very primitive kind of computers to show your program, and if you go to investor here in the UK, good luck to you. Yeah, you need those people who say that, okay, this seems insane, this seems almost impossible, I'm going to invest it, I'm going
Mm.
to take that gamble. It is like Euro minion lottery. You have to pick like 10 people. You can give like 40,000, 50,000 visas, exceptional talent visas with fitting your criteria, blah blah blah, PhD and all. You have to understand this thing. If you want to become a Silicon Valley, then you have to pick that guy who is nobody, who just has got a concept, one page concept, right? And you have to grab from America or from anywhere in the world. India has got a lot of talented people's pool. So you just need to pick people when they are nobody. Then only when they become successful, they would make your place Silicon Valley. because right now, as I said earlier, right now, I mean, just imagine that kind of like Larry Page or Mark Zuckerberg and all, if they would have applied for this visa at that time, would they have been given this visa in promise or talent? No. Now, if they said, I want the exceptional talent visa, you would give them,
Hmm.
because they, yeah, now you, but they won't come here now, right now. So
Yeah.
you have to pick them when it's like a crocodile, baby crocodile. You have to pick them, then they will become a very giant crocodile, something like that. So it's pretty simple. You have to change this promise criteria. Send us a one paper, and that's it. That send us your send us some more few documents that you can actually work on that concept. And then you need a people with that kind of mindset, right? You have to be prepared that you, if you choose like 50,000 people, only one would become a unicorn or one would become a Google story. But unless you do something like that, you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
get anywhere near Silicon Valley. And you
So
need
you would
investor.
have
Yeah,
for yeah, you would have for this visa, you would have a selection process similar to what, for instance, Y Combinator does. So like people just applying
yeah,
with
yeah.
their idea and getting the visa if it's good.
Yeah, and as I told you, it's a one page. The concept can fit into one page. Now you have to have those kind of people. So and the chance is just like a Euro million lottery, not like a 1 in a 2.57 million. But at least
Mm,
even if the chance, okay, people like me, the chances of people like me being successful probably were 1 in a million, because we think crazily. We are working on something crazy. I don't know whether I would be successful or not, but it's still, I can say that if I would be successful, I would be making a Google story, next Google story. You need people who can say something like that, and people would laugh at that guy. Okay, so what kind of crazy guy he is. You need those kind of crazy guys who, people don't say that they want to make a next Google story. Why? Because they know that people would laugh at it. It's almost impossible. But that's the definition of idea. Idea is something, whether people, anybody, nobody else except you knows, or even if they know, they think it is impossible. That's the definition of idea. Definition of idea is not something, oh, I I think I have an idea of what way you should go about reaching that destination. That's not an idea. We have trivialized the concept of idea. So we need people who think ideas. That's it.
yeah. So to summarize, we need crazy people in the UK with crazy ideas.
Yeah, crazy ideas.
Yeah. And lower taxes. I think that would help attract more people. But
And
that's a
you
whole
need
different discussion.
you need to you need to support. You have to have a support structure, infrastructure for that. You need to have that kind of investors, like looking after them, expanding those ideas. You need, and promise. I think promise is the only chance to replace
Mm,
Silicon Valley. pick
mm,
pick those graduates, brilliant. Don't pick old men like me. Okay, we are not going to get you or your Silicon Valley. Pick young blood with the great ideas, and build a trust with them, in them.
mm,
Take a gamble.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Really interesting turn of conversation that we talked about a lot more than just the visa. I think we can start to wrap up right now. So
Yeah.
unless there was anything like any closing words that you wanted to share, we can just wrap up.
Well, anybody requires any kind of help, and they think that I'll be able to help. You can contact me on my LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Nadia is doing a very fantastic, wonderful job of helping people. So
Thanks. Yeah, so I left a link to your LinkedIn in the description, and there are all the ways to get in touch with me as well. Best on LinkedIn, I think it's the easiest way. And also, if you're looking to apply for the visa, I do encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, where there is a lot of free information for you to learn, to get encouraged by stories of people like Mukesh and people in various other fields, so that if you're interested, you can learn and do this on your own as well. Great. Thank you so much, Mukesh, for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, and inspiring people. Yeah.
thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for
It's
tuning in, and wish everybody a nice evening. Bye.
bye.